Hey, sports fans, welcome on in. It's Down and Dirty. Scott Mitchell. So glad you could join us. Thank you. We love it. We love you. Lots of fun things to talk about today, as there always are in the world of sports. And sports is our life. So thank you. And we're so glad to be here. We got some very, very interesting things happening. Of course, NBA's heating up. There's some people, March Madness is around the corner. There's some people that it really kind of sucks to be you right now. We're going to tell you who those people are. And of course, curses. A lot of really bad sports curses. Is it really a thing? Is it not? I actually lived through a curse. So I'm a believer, but we'll definitely talk about all that fun stuff and so much more. We're going to go kind of take a little deep dive into March Madness today and among other things. And of course, I think if you guys are really good and behave well today, we're going to have a game at the end of the show that you don't want to miss. So always fun to play those sports games. We're going to start the show off with some hot headlines, things that are kind of moving the needle in the world of sports today. Of course, the numbers have come out for Bad Bunny, and Bad Bunny was, I don't know, somewhat controversial. The NFL has an interesting take on its halftime shows. Halftime shows are so much of a hit and miss, and there's so much that goes on in sports, or the Super Bowl that's not even part of the game. And the halftime show is definitely one of them. But Bad Bunny apparently had, is this really true? It said a global viewership was 4.2 billion people with a B. That's a
Yeah.
billion. Come on, that cannot be, because there's not that many people watching the Super Bowl. There's only like 120 million people even watching the Super Bowl, and they tuned in 4.2 billion. I'm calling BS on this. Is this really an honest, legitimate a source? Where did we get this information from, Martin?
So Bleacher Report reported this, and they got it from some NFL and TV insiders to back this report up. Um, I think this mostly has to do with maybe not just them like watching it as it was like being broadcasted. I think this
Yeah.
has to do more with the fact that when people saw it or people heard about it, you went back on YouTube, you went back on social media somewhere, you watched
Yeah.
it and all that. So they collected, through all that data, they collected more than 4.2 billion people within the
So it's
first 24 hours of it being performed that
yeah.
Bad Bunny had all these eyes.
So it's not like the television broadcast of the halftime show. It's all the YouTube, it's all the other things.
Yeah.
It's like where we live, right? It's viewership on many platforms, which is where we are. So okay, that makes much more sense to me. But this is a fascinating kind of phenomena, right? So you have Bad Bunny, and Bad Bunny is bad. Like, he's controversial, and even the fact that he's like, I'm going to sing in Spanish, get over it. And so he created this firestorm to the point where people go, we're going to have an alternative halftime. And I'm not here to debate the politics and the rightness and the wrongness of this, but I think the NFL, in an attempt to, cater to a certain audience, or whatever they're trying to do, they try to represent all peoples, all cultures, all these things, and that's their business. That's fine, whatever. But all of what I think happened with Bad Bunny is it just created an interest. Okay, so I'm not a Bad Bunny fan. I've never watched his stuff. I've never even heard of him, and that tells you who I am, right? I'm not of that what culture, or that's not my genre of things to listen to. And I have a broad range of things that I like to listen to. A broad range. Like, I'm all over the place in my music listening habits, all over the place. I love a lot of music. But I'm not a Bad Bunny fan. Not a Bunny fan. But what I did is I tuned in. And I tuned in because it's almost like when you have the train wreck, right? And you go, or you're driving past an accident, you want to see. I mean, it's a lot of why people watch the news, because they want to see the craziness going on in the world, and they want to see what all the controversy is. Now, I don't even speak Spanish. I mean, I know some words in Spanish, and I can follow along just a little bit in Spanish. And so there was again a bigger controversy of the language, or the words that he was actually speaking. And again, I wouldn't know if it was extremely illicit or not. I'd have no idea what it was. So I don't know. But so there's just this controversy that surrounds it, and it's one of those things that and it's got the most views of anything ever in the Super Bowl. And I think a lot of it is because of the controversy that happens to be Bad Bunny. I mean, it's a very clever name. Even, it's like, because you think of a bunny rabbit as very soft and cute and cuddly, and you even think of Bugs Bunny, even though he's a little bit of a character, but he's a good character. And so you kind of have this, but this is Bad Bunny. And so Bad Bunny is kind of that mix between, I'm it's like Bad Santa, right? I mean, it's a very clever name. Now, when I watched it, I was like, huh? Like, I didn't get it. I was just like, you know, I read some of the reviews from some people. It's like, oh, this is amazing. It's like, just he takes us on a journey through, and I'm just like, yeah, I didn't feel it. So, but I did watch, and it's not
Yeah.
even something. And I watched because I was curious of the train wreck. I was curious about what is all the controversy, what's going on here.
I watched it, and me and my me and my dad watched it together, and I was entertained by it. It was a fun show to watch. I'm right there with you. 4.2 billion people. That's considering there's 8 billion people on the planet. You got nearly over half of the people to watch him directly. That's incredible. I get it too with the NFL. I mean, they were in California, they were in Santa Clara. I mean, those are kind of Hispanic words that you would, if you put an emphasis on it, you would say it that way differently. But I get it. And it's a halftime show. And I think you and me, Scott, are the mindset of, listen, it's the Super Bowl. We want to watch the two best teams compete for the most ultimate prize in the NFL. Like, something I wish I could be a part of every single year. I wish I could be on that field, regardless if I win or lose that game. Just to be there would be an amazing trip and an amazing experience. So a halftime show is a halftime show, and I agree with you. All the controversy that brought it up beforehand, the alternate halftime show that was on the other program, it drew interest. And yeah, I didn't understand too many of the words either, but I was enjoying it. It was fun to watch. Lady Gaga was there, Ricky Martin was there. Those were two fun people to see on the stage and entertain us. I understood after the show, I understood some of the references, like they were climbing the poles. That's a reference to Cuba losing power once every few days. They go with power for on ends. There was the scene where all the sugar cane, where he was walking through all that. That's to Cuba as well. So it's cool that a halftime show got 4.2 billion views afterwards. And yeah, I think the NFL, regardless if this was taken in a positive or negative way, they'll take all that views. They'll take all the references.
Right. Yeah.
They'll take all the money. At the end of the day, it's all about the money that they collected from all of that.
Well, and that would be an interesting thing to find out, because the halftime show has taken on a life of itself. And there have been so many memorable, really good halftimes. There have been some cringeworthy halftimes. There have been some wardrobe malfunction halftimes.
Mhm.
And in fact, I was watching the Super Bowl, living in Florida at the time, and I was at one of my neighbors' houses, and they had a big party and whatever, and everyone got up to leave. Everyone was kind of like, oh, it's halftime, and they didn't really care about the halftime show, and it was Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson, and for whatever reason, I'm the only one sitting in this room watching this, and all of a sudden, it's like, what? Wait, hold on, did I see what I just saw? He ripped her shirt off right in front. It's like, was this? No, this didn't happen. And so there's this and it's just because there's so many eyes on all of
Mhm.
this. I mean, you go to a Super Bowl, which we'll do with our show next year, and literally everyone is at the Super Bowl. I mean, every name, every they don't have they don't care about the game. They don't have an interest in the game, but it's an event that shows up. And this halftime show is really part of taking on that life. It's part of what makes the Super Bowl such a spectacle. And all that this they have this comment, there's no such news as bad news. It's all good publicity, it's all good news. It just gets people talking about it. I mean, you think about the teams have to go in at halftime and they go, one of the worst things you have to deal with in a Super Bowl is you're in the locker room for so long. And you're in there for so long because of this halftime show that really it almost feels like it's more important to most people than the Super Bowl. And but gone are the days of the band playing at halftime. We have all these crazy things, and I have a feeling that this event, because with the viewership and the attention brought to it, I think it's just the tip of the iceberg as to what's to come for our halftime entertainment of a Super Bowl. It's and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And I'm not here because there's a lot of people that are really bent sideways about this halftime show, and they are because it's like because they feel that the Super Bowl is kind of an American event. And
Mhm.
I remember as a kid growing up watching the Super Bowl with my family, and I mean pretty much every Super Bowl has been an gosh, excuse me, has been an event that I've enjoyed with it's just with my family. I
Yeah.
remember watching as a kid the 1977 Super Bowl between the Dallas Cowboys and the Denver Broncos, and of course, living in Utah, you have kind of a coast close tie to Denver, and it was just exciting to see how excited the folks in Denver were that they were going to go to a Super Bowl. And but I but I remember watching it with my family in our house, and it was just an event that. And so a lot of people are kind of bent sideways about this halftime show and multiple national anthems and all these different things. And again, I'm not interested in getting into is it right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just fascinated that it draws a ridiculous amount of attention. And that's what the Super Bowl is. It's a big fat giant spectacle.
Yeah, and it's just it comes with what is being commercialized with the Super Bowl. I mean, every year we see new commercials that come out during the game or what we're going to look at for the next year. And I agree with you. The sound of the Super Bowl halftime show has changed. No longer is they had Green Day to open up the whole entire Super Bowl, but the last 15 years, you could say that the halftime show has been a little poppy with Madonna, with Katy Perry, with the halftime show in LA with Drake and not Drake with Dre and with Snoop Dogg and Eminem, with Kendrick Lamar last year, with Maroon 5, with everybody who has been performing the last 15 years. So I agree with you. The commercialization of the Super Bowl has grown so big that it makes the Super Bowl a spectacle. And like I said before, with you and me being football fans, we love the game more than we love whatever else comes with the game itself. And I mean, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's about making money. And in the NFL, they made
Yeah.
some money off of it.
I've never I've just always tolerated halftime.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like it's like whatever. Like you get your halftime people. Like I don't sit here and go, okay, all I want to watch is the game. Like it's like fine. And I don't gamble or anything like that, but I'm fascinated by all the prop bets. And so I
Oh yeah.
know there's a lot of stuff going on. Like who's the first coach that gets airtime on the show? How many times are they going to show Taylor Swift in the game? There's all kinds of crazy bets going
Yeah.
on
How long is
in the Super Bowl.
how long is the
The,
national
the
anthem?
national anthem, yes,
Coin
all
flip.
that's
Yeah.
and for me, all that stuff is just it's ancillary. I don't care. I don't get caught up in it. I do not care about it. I'm just like, whatever. So,
Yeah,
but man, when you threw this number out at me, I was like, holy crap.
yeah,
Okay,
I saw it too. I agree.
next headline. The what do we have? The World
Yeah, so
Baseball Classic
yeah,
is back, and Team
you'll
USA will compete again to win its
yeah.
second
So
title.
if you're
So
in a
tell me a
draw.
little bit about the World Baseball Classic, because this is during spring training, right? It's
Yes. So if you're in a little bit of a draw from the Olympics and you miss rooting for Team USA and getting into that, rah rah mentality,
you mean a
World Baseball
lull?
Classic, it's right around the corner.
You're in a lull.
So a lull, sorry, I mixed the wrong words there. So,
Yeah, it's
um,
okay. I do it all the time. Yeah.
I catch myself doing it from time to time as well. But what we have here up on the screen is obviously Aaron Judge, Paul Skeens, Cal Raleigh, Tarek Skubal, some of the top names that'll be representing Team USA. World Baseball Classic, Sky. If you didn't catch it the last time, it was fun. It was in Miami. The last time they did this, it'll be in Houston, so it'll be where the Houston Astros play their baseball, and it's a competition between some of the very best baseball nations in the world. You'll get Cuba, Puerto Rico, USA, Mexico. You'll get some lows teams. Italy, Netherlands, Israel are going to compete in this one. Great Britain are going to compete in this one. Canada will be competing in this one. Brazil, Japan, Chinese Taipei. So
Are
there's
these
going to
are
be
these are these mostly like Major League Baseball players? Are they all
some have
Major League
Major
Baseball?
League Baseball players. This is just like hockey when it came with the Olympics. You have some teams that have NHL players. You have others that just have all their homegrown professional leagues that have their own talent and will be getting on a plane to come to America to compete for this. The defending title champs are Japan, who have won three of these. This has been going on, I want to say, since like the late 90s and early 2000s. And so USA has one World Baseball Classic title, and so they're looking to win their second one. They're going to compete this Friday versus Brazil. It'll be their first game in their group. And yeah, it's fun. It's again, you mentioned it's during spring training. So Tarek Skubal plays for the Detroit Tigers. He's only going to have one start, and then he's going to go back to getting ready for the start of the MLB season. This, like, because you and I have talked about it, this ties in exactly like if the Summer Olympics came around and that flag football, where like the
Right.
NFL gave their guys the break and said you can go play this and come back and get ready for the season. This is basically it for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. This is a time where these guys are trying not to completely tear their arms and get their bodies out of into complete out of play shape. But they're having fun representing Team USA, and we'll see if we can win another title.
Yeah, I think it's really cool actually, and they do manage pitch counts. They do manage all this stuff because it leads up into the start of the Major League Baseball season, and so guys are not, as far as pitching goes, are not going to miss their opening day or any of those things. So it's a nice thing, but it's kind of cool that it's so well received. I mean, as you said, it's been around a while, but it's super competitive. Like people really want to watch it and see it, and it shows because you think, well, the U.S. should dominate this, and I'm sure there are players that sit out and don't participate, what have you. But it's something that um, is a cool event. It's something that's should be well received, and so I think it's awesome. I love it. All right, we're gonna take a break. We come back. We are going to talk about some NFL news of notes, and there is a massive dilemma that both Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts have with his situation with his contract. We're going to talk about that and so much more when the Down and Dirty returns. We'll be right back.
The Pete Souza Show, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. You want to talk NFL draft? I don't know. How about we get you Todd McShay? You want to talk Big 12? We can get you the commissioner. Somebody about the Cowboys? How about we have on the owner, Stephen Jones? Pop culture? Michelle Beadle. I mean, we will bring on the people that you want to hear from. And these people don't join us because of me. They join us because of you. You got to watch this show, okay? It's got everything you need. Sports, hijinks, laughs. Did I mention hijinks? We'll see you on the Pete Souza Show. Now, we are under the 365 Sports umbrella. Check it out. I'm wearing a Tulane shirt. No idea why.
It's the Pete Souza Show. Sports, Pete.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated with style and durability. You can trust Tervis tumblers to keep your drinks the perfect temperature, hot or cold, for hours. From the classic insulated tumblers to sleek stainless steel water bottles, each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Sports don't stop, and neither do we. Welcome to 365 Sports, your home for real conversations, original shows, and coverage that lives where sports actually happen. Join David Smoke, Craig Smoke, and myself, Paul Catalina, for in-depth interviews and local stories to the moments national media misses. 365 Sports brings you the voices, debates, and perspectives fans care about every single day. Subscribe now on YouTube, search 365 Sports, and never miss a moment because sports aren't seasonal. They're 365.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty. Thank you. Love you. Appreciate you. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I just have fun doing this. I really do. I really enjoy this every day. And it's just fun to keep my mind in the sports world, to have conversations with people, to talk about what's going on, to share my experiences as a former athlete. And so it's fun. It's a great thing. And I really enjoy it. So I hope you do as well. Okay, NFL news of notes. We always do the NFL news of notes on the show simply because there's always news about the NFL. It's a 24/7, 365 thing. And it's, of course, that time of year where players are getting cut, free agents are getting signed. They're having a combine. They're having, preparation for the draft. The draft's going to come up. And before you know it, we're going to be right back into the season. But always stuff to talk about. So we always cover it every single day. It's like the sun coming up. You can be guaranteed that we're going to share with you the NFL news of note, the things that really are moving the needle in the NFL. And quite frankly, the one thing to me that's really moving the needle more than anything is Daniel Jones. And it's a fascinating dilemma that they have. First of all, Daniel Jones, when he was drafted, you're like, what? The Giants did this and they picked this guy, and he never quite could live up to what they had. And of course, they got rid of Saquon. They kept Daniel Jones, and now both of them are gone in New York, and both of them are actually flourishing quite well. Daniel Jones had a resurgence in Indiana, and he became Indiana Jones, and it looked like they were a team that's going to go to the playoffs, and who knows how far they would have gone in the playoffs, but certainly a resurgence for Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. And then lo and behold, boom, you get an Achilles, and that's one of those sucks to be you kind of injuries. Now, it's one guys recover from. How effective they are after, Daniel Jones is still relatively young, so his likelihood of coming back from that probably pretty high, especially in the world today where they know so much about Achilles injuries, and they have, the science, the technology, the medicine is probably top notch. And I'm sure Daniel Jones had the best of the very best in his surgery, and I'm sure in his recovery, but he still had an injury. And I've never in my life have had an Achilles injury. I know Dan Marino had one when I played for the Dolphins. That's why I ended up playing. And I remember Dan complaining about, because gosh, my calf is just tight. And it was like that for some time. And then out of the blue, it just popped. And that's how they happen. And there's like no control over when it happens, why it happens. It'd be fascinating. Maybe they know stuff about why they happen, but I've never heard anything like you need to do this to prevent an Achilles. Now, maybe it's stretching, maybe who knows what it is. And they kind of freak me out. It's just kind of a weird pet peeve, I guess, I have of these injuries because you just don't know. You don't know when it's going to happen. And so here's Daniel Jones. He has it. And you go, is it going to come back? Is he going to have another one? And maybe it's a lot stronger because of the repair to it, than it would have been before. But what about his other, so you're questioning, is Daniel Jones going to come back from this? Is it ever going to happen again? And how effective is he going to be when he comes back? Because you don't know. No one ever knows. It could be a nothing burger. It could be a situation where he just he just goes on and he's fine. There was something happening with him in Indianapolis before that injury. And I think people hopefully are smart enough to recognize, don't look too far beyond the mark here. You have Sam Darnold and he wins 14 games for you, Minnesota. Do you really want to get rid of him? And I would imagine Sam Darnold probably didn't want to leave Minnesota. And maybe he comes back. I don't know, but it's a tough situation because they never really looked at Sam Darnold that seriously. And you have to wonder if Daniel Jones is the same situation because they had Anthony Richardson and they really were hoping that guy was going to be something. And then Daniel Jones comes in and maybe looks a little better because Anthony Richards wasn't really that good. And so so maybe he isn't that good. I don't know, but there's certainly that side of it with Daniel Jones. But here's the dilemma, and it's a real dilemma because what do you do? Because Daniel Jones, if they don't do anything, if they don't sign him to a long-term contract, they don't franchise or transition him, which they're talking about one of these two options, he's free to go. So as soon as free agency starts, boy, he's out the door, and Indianapolis is left with nobody. And you're back to square zero. But here's even the further twist in this fate is you got folks there that are under the gun. Coach, GM, they're like, we got to win now. We got to do something right now. We can't go out and hopefully find the next Sam Darnold. We think we found him maybe in Daniel Jones. We're like, there's our Sam Darnold situation. Having a quarterback play at a high level is not something that just falls off of trees in the NFL. When you have it, you hold on to it, you nurture it, you help it grow, you protect it, you do whatever you can to make sure that it works well. And so that's what they have with Daniel Jones. And I think Indianapolis wants to have a long-term deal with John. It sounds like they're having discussions about that. And probably the smartest move for them because that's the quickest path to success and stability for this current coaching staff and general manager, right? Because they look like freaking geniuses if they go and pick up Daniel Jones and he does well and plays well for them. And there's a lot of people in place within Indianapolis that they can be a team that has some ability to contend. Because right now, the AFC is no longer monopolized by the Kansas City Chiefs. It's not monopolized by the Buffalo Bills anymore. There's still some question. It's open, right? And you say, well, maybe the Broncos are a team. Well, Bo Nix kind of got injured, and that thwarted that whole deal. But the AFC is open, so there's an opportunity for a team like Indianapolis to move in there, and maybe you're going to see teams like Jacksonville make a step forward. But there's not a lock, on the AFC right now, which is kind of a nice thing. So you have even a bigger hope and chance, which makes Daniel Jones coming back, being healthy, even that more significant. So if they don't reach an agreement, he becomes free. But then if they want to keep him, they can franchise him. And if they franchise him, then he's on the books for a lot of money, which they don't really have. So now they got to make decisions about cutting people. But then they go, well, are people really interested in Daniel Jones? And you try to hedge your bet. And so you go, well, we won't franchise him. Maybe we'll transition him. So if you franchise him, you got him, right? He's yours. But if you transition him, somebody can offer something to him and he can get away. And so you're trying to kind of hedge your bet. But on the flip side of it, he's still injured. And you don't know how he's going to recover from an injury. You don't know what's going to happen. So it's really a massive dilemma, I think, for everyone. If, clearly if he plays and they go into the playoffs a year ago, he's already got a long-term contract. Like, he played his way into a big deal with the Indianapolis Colts. No question about it. Now, the flip side of it is if you want to gamble and you're the Colts and you go, well, we're going to do nothing, or we're going to do, minimal effort here, transitioning him. The question is who really wants Daniel Jones? And quite frankly, where does Daniel Jones want to go? Because if you're Daniel Jones, you go, man, I want to go to Miami. I want to go to the Phoenix Cardinals, or the Arizona Cardinals. I want to go to, all these horrible places. And he puts on a smiley face. He plugs his nose from the stench of the stinkiness of these bad situations. And he pretends like, yeah, I love it here, man. We're going to win in the Desert Storm 2, 3, 4, whatever incarnation of Desert Storm there is, that's going to happen with the Arizona Cardinals. Daniel Jones is going to be leading the charge. And in the back of his mind, he goes, no, I don't really want to go there, but I'm going to pretend, because that way I have leverage. Because if Daniel Jones goes out there and goes, I don't want to go anywhere else, I want to be, then Indianapolis has all the leverage. So this is one of those really, I think it's one of the more intriguing dilemmas or dramas or negotiations probably happening this offseason, because there is a team out there that could be a real contender. There's always a team out there. There's always some poor sucker out there to swoop you up in free agency. But this isn't some poor sucker. It might be the Minnesota Vikings. And if it's the Minnesota Vikings, then Daniel Jones goes, wait a minute. I'm not going to Desert Storm. I'm not going to South Beach, man. I'm going to the frozen tundra of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I have a really good friend, and he said, I lived 16 of the worst winters of my life in Minneapolis. So it is not a fun place to be in the winter, but, football season's over by the winter. Regardless, that could be a really good landing spot for a guy like Daniel Jones for a lot of reasons. More coaching stability, a great, Kevin O'Connell is the quarterback whisperer, and why not do it with Daniel Jones? So it would be a very intriguing option. And from all news out of Minneapolis with the Vikings is JJ McCarthy. They're not they're more concerned about him than they would be about Daniel Jones' Achilles. So that's going to be a fun one to watch. I know I spent a lot of time on it, but it's worth the discussion. Okay, fifth international game. The Atlanta Falcons are going to play in Madrid. So that's another fascinating development. And like, I swear, and we report on this quite a bit, and I just think it's fascinating that the NFL is just, I mean, like, I don't even know if they're like trying to do this covertly, or we'll do a little bit. It just seems like the NFL is jumping into the pond, across the pond, and into a world market. Now, I just don't believe players go, yeah, man, I wouldn't be excited about playing a game over in Europe. And maybe it's because I'm old now, and I know how, like, there's a certain way you travel, there's a certain preparation, And when something takes you so far out of your routine and your preparation, it's a hard thing to deal with. And it's really the sleep. That's the biggest challenge, because you get all whacked out on what time of day it is, and it takes you time when you come back to get into the flow of everything, and you realize your preparation days are all so critical and so important. But the NFL and these owners, they're not like, oh, you're making us go to, over to Europe. All these owners are going, oh man, yeah, I want to be the team that goes over, because they know that that's a massive influx of value, of popularity and money in their pockets. It's a new market, to open business, and so they're like, heck yeah, let's go. Now, this is kind of an interesting thing that happened with the Detroit Lions. David Montgomery, one of their running backs, was actually traded to the Houston Texans, and they got a decent amount of money out of David Montgomery. And he was kind of joking about, like, man, I want to get out of here. His time had been diminished through injury and also production of the other running back in Detroit, and so he ends up going to the Houston Texans, and then the Lions also get an offensive lineman, Juice Shrugs. And I don't understand this. I don't understand any of it. I don't understand. I mean, the Lions probably said, look, we know he's not going to be a part of what we have. We know who our starter is, who our everyday guy is, but I want to be able to, get some value out of this guy. And again, there's always some team out there, and it just seems like there's you can get, I don't know, it just seems like there's running backs that you can find all over the place. Just with how running backs are utilized in the NFL today. There's very few guys, like a Derrick Henry, who are just like, or a Saquon or Jonathan Taylor, or some of these, and they're those guys. And there's certainly value in those guys. And it's funny how the NFL, like, we're so pass happy that running back is irrelevant. But it might be shifting again to where, and I think what happens is when you spread teams out, right? And so you have these wide open offenses. A lot of teams are in shotgun. A lot of, it's spreading out the field. It's deploying people in, formations, 4 wide, 5 wide, all that stuff. No one in the backfield. And when you do that, you are limited in how you run the football. But what happens is you create massive mismatches for defenses, right? And so now now defenses go, we have to find a different type of player to defend. And so the different type of player is like a hybrid safety DB guy who can kind of support in the run to an extent, but is an every down player who can run, who can cover, who has some size to handle the physicalness of everything that's going on. So now you've kind of changed your defensive personnel, and now teams go, well, why don't we just kind of back it down again and run the football? And so you have these linebackers, and you see them all the time. They're not the Jack Lamberts. They're not the Brian Urlachers. They're not these guys. And Urlacher, he probably could play today, but they're guys that are stout and ready to stop the run. It's more a hybrid. We're going to be more of, we can play in space and move around and do all this stuff. And so now all of a sudden, teams are built to stop the pass, and teams are going back to more of a traditional running back. They're actually putting 2 backs in the backfield. They're actually running I formations and doing all these different things. And I think, so now the league's going, well, wait a minute, who are we? What are we? And defenses, I think have been able to stop a lot of it because of how they've changed their personnel to fit kind of the style of teams that they're seeing. And now the trend is shifting back to the running back because it always changes. There's, there was always a 4 down front. There was always a 3 down front, and it switched, and then everyone went to the double reduced look, and it became the bear defense, and you had 5 linemen, basically defensive linemen in the game, and so there's all these trends, and people don't know how to handle them because they've never seen them, and so once they figure out how to block them or how to cover or how to do this, then it's not such a shock. But initially, you kind of get an advantage, you get a leg up on teams, and you kind of see that ebb and flow of defenses matching offenses and offenses matching defense, and then it affects running backs, and teams go, man, we got to run the ball, because Houston is a team that goes, we can't put it all on our quarterback. We can't. We need a good running game. We need a better offensive line because we've got this amazing defense. And so games are going to be closer. The score is going to be tighter. And we got to be able to shorten games. We got to be able to, win. I don't want to say ugly, but win ugly. And they can, because they have the type of defense to shut people down. So fascinating things happening, of course, with kind of the evolution of teams, and because I just see, all these linemen are like, we get cut, and then someone picks them up, and it's almost like musical chairs. It's like, here goes the music. Everyone just going to get mixed around here a little bit, and we're going to find a new spot, and that's kind of how it all works. I'm sure these teams, because I know how it works, is they go, okay, well, this is the highest priority. This is how are we, what is the number one need on our team, right? We go offensive line, and you go, okay, of all the guys out there in the NFL, and they look at the contracts, they look at who's going to get cut, they look at who's going to be a free agent, they look at all this different stuff, and they go, what are we willing to give up to get this guy? And so, because they don't want that guy to get on the open market, because if a guy gets on the open market, then they have to pay more. And so they would rather the devil, is better. And so they just go trade for him. This is expendable. This makes us a better football team, because you're never in a position where you go, you have all the answers, you have all the parts. I mean, maybe to almost, the best case scenario are all the teams with young quarterbacks on their rookie contract deals. That's really the teams that are in the best position. So you have the Bo Nixes of the league. You have some of these other teams that, you might say the Washington Commanders are one of those teams that are benefiting from those early deals with these guys. But no one has all the answers. And so people are trying to make trades before free agency, players getting cut, because then when a player gets cut, then you're bidding against 4 or 5 teams. It's like Daniel Jones. If Daniel Jones goes out on free agency, he's gonna have there are teams looking for a quarterback. And again, the new trend in the NFL is, who's the next Sam Darnold? That people aren't smart enough to think any different than that. So they go, maybe it's Daniel Jones, maybe it's Mac Jones, maybe it's maybe it is Tua, maybe it is Kyler Murray, maybe, who knows? But you don't want to be a team and get out in a situation if you're looking to shore a position and you're having to fight all these teams for a player. You do not want to have that happen on your team. So it's it's certainly a strategy, and you're just trying to but the flip side of it is, you have to be really convinced of a guy, which is what your scouting department is. The Detroit Lions go, we're okay to give up some picks, because if Juice Shrugs was our target, and yeah, we get some picks for it, right? And David Montgomery's a good player, but he's not our highest priority right now. We already have a guy in that situation. And so they go, Juice makes our offensive line better, and we get some draft picks that who knows what those will turn into, because draft picks in the NFL, second, third, fourth, all those draft picks, very meaningful for teams. And so that's what you try to do, as opposed to going, well, let's just wait and see what happens to Juice on the open market. And Houston goes, we know David Montgomery is going to help our team out. And so that's kind of how it all works. So it's very interesting. All right. Martin asked me this question: should teams draft a running back in the first round or wait till the later rounds? It's the same question. I think it's the same dilemma that you have. So Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame could be a top 10 pick. And so in the last years are kind of been hit and miss first round picks. And again, I think it goes to kind of, it goes to how I think you want to build your team. And if you're a team that goes, we just want someone who can be an efficient runner. They don't have to be a world beater, but they can catch passes out of the backfield. They can block in protection. They can run efficiently. And a lot of teams, it's running back by committee, like the Seahawks kind of did a year ago. Zach Charbonnet, who's a very good running back, was also not a first round pick. And so you have a lot of, you can get a lot of value. Again, that's this kind of 4th to 7th round pick. There's a lot of running backs out there. The thing is there's always a lot of running backs. There's always a lot of wide receivers. You can find quality people in a lot of places. So again, if your team is built like, let's just say Indianapolis, where the running back position's a big deal there, and they've kind of built themselves around it. And you have Daniel Jones, who's been very complimentary to that game. Then picking a guy high would certainly make a lot of sense. All right, let's take another break. We come back. Sucks to be you is right around the corner. Some interesting things about there's kind of some challenging things about some folks, and this will be a fun segment. You won't want to miss it. This is Down Dirty. Scott Mitchell will be back in just a minute.
Hey, it's Matt Mosley of The Matt Mosley Show. We want you to watch our show every day, 1 to 3 on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. And you get to see big name guests like Gary Patterson, Art Briles, Scott Drew, Doug McNamee, major Cowboys insiders, ESPN legends like Sal Palantonio. When news breaks on Cowboys or Baylor or NFL, we want you to look here first. 1 to 3 weekdays. It's the Matt Mosley Show.
For 75 years, Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. No gimmicks, just durable, well-designed bottles built to last. Join us in our mission to amplify life, not complicate it. Because at Nalgene, what goes into our bottles matters as much as the adventures they fuel. Explore more at nalgene.com. That's NALGENE.com.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone, and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Hey, it's Zach Gelb. We're talking NFL and college football. Plus, we have some of the biggest interviews in sports media. You got to check out the Zach Gelb Show right here on 365 Sports, weekdays, 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 p.m. Central. And make sure you subscribe to my channel, youtube.com/@ZachGelbShow.
All righty, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty. So glad you could be a part of our show. Fun segment we do now. It's called, and we do this from time to time. It's one of these things where it sucks to be you in the sports world. and just can't seem to catch a break. Not a really good scenario to be a part of. So we'll kind of go into some of the people, some of the scenarios that it sucks to be you. You know, I was during the break, I've been recovering from pneumonia, and it really still kind of impacts me to some degree. And so every once in a while you'll hear me cough, which is, you know, something I try not to do. I try to mute myself at least when I'm doing it. And I made the comment, I was like, man, I got a frog in my throat. And of course it's something we all say, right? When your voice is not quite, you know, because we're kind of ribbit, you know, whatever. You get this Patrick Mahomes voice. And as I thought about it, I'm like, you know, if you really had a frog in your throat, that would be pretty disgusting. I think you'd probably be gagging for one. And so I don't know, for whatever reason, I just thought, man, I got a frog in my throat. And it's like, well, that's a horrible thing to think and to have. So in other words, that sucks to be you if you have a frog in your throat, which leads me into it sucks to be you. All right, Trae Young, of course, he was with the Atlanta Hawks, and he was very publicly traded to the Washington Wizards. Hasn't seen the court in quite some time, still waiting to get on the court. And of course, while he's sitting in the stands, he gets ejected from a game. He's like, he can't even get on the court yet. And I don't know if it's one of these, hey, I want to draw attention to myself. People aren't paying any attention because all athletes have egos and they want everyone to say, hey, over here, it's me. And of course, you know, he's highly anticipated his playing with the Wizards, and he hasn't even got on the court yet, and he's getting technical fouls. Now he claims that that's probably the last time you'll see a technical foul from him. Of course, he was arguing a play. He felt like it was, a bad call by the officiating, which is, and he voiced his frustration and what have you. And now he knows what it's like to be a coach. And so I'm sure he not wants neither. But Trae Young is still not playing for the Washington Wizards and contributing to the debauchery that is the Wizards. So sucks to be Trae Young today. I'm sure that will change in the future. He's a bright talent. Now here's one that I kind of pay attention to, right? It's the Utah Jazz. And it really, I think the Jazz, it sucks to be the Utah Jazz because of this right now. So I always pay attention to the standings, right? And so in the Western Conference, which is where Utah Jazz, they're second to last. So they have 18 wins on the season. There's 4 teams ahead of them for worst record. So they have the 5th worst record in the NBA. And the thing about it that why it sucks to be the Utah Jazz is because they're bless their hearts. They're trying to win a championship. They're trying to game the system just like everyone else. They're trying to tank. They're trying to be a bad team. And yet they get fined $500,000 and yet they still have a horrible record. Like, it's one thing if you're kind of a play-in contender or you're on the bubble to make the playoffs or whatever, and you go, yeah, or you have all your parts or your components or, whatever you have, which the Jazz don't have. And so they actually legitimately are bad. Okay. And they, if they get all their pieces and their parts together and they get another player somewhere, like an elite player, whether it's a trade, whether it's in this next draft, then maybe it's different, but they stink right now. And yet they're being singled out and they're being, fined $500,000 for being a bad team. And they legitimately are a bad team. So it kind of sucks to be the Utah Jazz, which I hate to say. I really, really hate to say this. I was thinking about it a couple of days ago. Like, I understand what it's like to be a fan. Like, I'm a fan of sports. I really am. I love sports. I love to watch it. I love to participate in it. I love my whole experience. I love it. I've always loved it. And I love being a fan. I love the NBA. I love watching. I'm a huge Utah Jazz fan, have been as long as the Jazz have been in existence in the state of Utah. And wherever I've lived in the country, when the Jazz came through town, whether it was Miami or Detroit or anywhere else, I would end up going to their games. And so I was a huge fan. And it's hard. It's hard to sit here and go, what the freak are you people doing? Like, do you even know what you're doing? You're just like, and they do. I mean, they're trying to play within the rules, but they've really had, so it's hard. And so it's hard for me to watch the Utah Jazz right now. Like, I can't even watch them. I don't even want to watch them. I briefly bounce in. And so maybe I suck as a fan. Maybe it sucks to be a fan of the Jazz. Maybe it sucks to be me because I am a fan of the Jazz. But I'm just telling you, it is not a pleasant experience to watch your team just be so awful and terrible like they are. Now, here's what else sucks. And I for some reason, this struck me as odd. So it sucks to be on Mel Kiper's list of the people who really improved their draft status. And he lists out 13 players who actually improved their draft status from their combine work. Now, everyone I talk to, they all say, yeah, the combine's a check mark. It's not like a make or break you kind of thing. And maybe this is an attempt to kind of create some excitement out of the combine, like who really blew everyone's socks off at the combine. And clearly, they love athleticism, but it just further kind of cements, because there are some teams that I know the Rams take no stock in the combine. But what was funny to me, and where I think this makes a lot of sense, is kind of, so he lists out all these players and you go, yeah, so, had a really good combine, makes a case for going in the third round. And I'm thinking, well, okay, what, to me, it's like you're elevated. This guy made a case to really move up in the first round. And it's like, and almost every single one of them, like this guy, I could possibly see him as a second rounder. I could possibly see this guy, maybe mid, maybe late first round, possibly. There's, it's always a possibility thing. But pretty much everyone there, like, he's a day two discussion. Jack Kelly, linebacker from BYU, for example, he said, man, he looked amazing. He ran a 4.5 40, and he's one of the top. He's the third linebacker in his broad jump. He had good numbers, and he had an amazing season at BYU. And so you're like, yeah, he's a first rounder, he's a second rounder, he's whatever. And then his analysis is he's probably an early day 3 pick. And so I think there might be, of all these players, there's like one guy who he has in the first round. Everyone's fourth round, third day, second day. So I think it sucks to be on Mel Kiper's list of like people who really made a jump. And speaking of people who kind of went down, Caleb Downs, who was a really good safety, considered a first round pick. They didn't realize until after the combine, but he has an issue, and it's a degenerative ACL, and it's like something that degenerative means it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so he goes from a guy who eventually could be a top pick to he may slide big time in the draft, and that sucks to be you. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. We have our sports curse is real. I lived in Detroit. I played for the Detroit Lions, and they have a thing called the curse of Bobby Lane. And after living and playing in Detroit, I might agree that sports curses are a real thing. We'll talk about that and so much more when the Down and Dirty returns.
Hi, my name is Mike Lacey. I'm with Beyond the Game, a new podcast to the Rogue Media Network. Just when you thought you'd had a little bit too much about BYU, here we are to provide you even a little bit more. I, as part of the BYU group, am grateful that we're part of the Big 12 and really grateful that we're part of the Rogue Media Network. Thank you.
Circulon C1 Series Clad with Scratch Defense Non-Stick. The luxury and confidence of premium clad stainless steel meets Scratch Defense Extreme Non-Stick that won't scratch, ever. With an ultra-thick aluminum core for high-performance heating. Maximize cooking, minimize cleaning. Discover the unmatched durability and elegance of clad stainless steel. Scratch-free, worry-free, forever.
Protect your online privacy with NordVPN. Browse securely, access content from anywhere, and keep your data safe with military-grade encryption. Whether at home or on the go, NordVPN ensures your digital freedom. Stay secure. Download NordVPN today at nordvpn.com. That's NORDVPN.com.
Are you looking for top-shelf sports talk about the West Virginia Mountaineers, where you can get objective analysis, but with the passion of a fan? Well, look no further than right here at Couz's Corner. I am Justin Couz Walker, the host of Couz's Corner, and you can find my show on demand over at YouTube. Most shows are uploaded by 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also check out my live post-game reaction shows. My special guest interviews, you can find it all on YouTube at Couz's Corner. Go check it out.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back Down and Dirty. Scott Mitchell. So glad you could be a part of our show. Thanks for tuning in. Like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Yes, so I was in the early years of free agency in the NFL. I was blessed and fortunate to be a partaker, and I went to the Detroit Lions. And boy, did I think we were going to Super Bowls, and it was going to be just an incredible experience. With my time with the Detroit Lions. And, I actually want to bring Martin in on this because I think the question is, and there's some really famous curses in all of sports, and I almost want to talk about some of these and see if Martin has even heard of any of them or if he believes, but there's a side of me that goes, because I know when I went to Detroit, and I'd actually heard of it. So the curse of Bobby Lane, basically the Lions were winning championships, and Bobby Lane was their quarterback, and he was, Bobby Lane's in the Hall of Fame, and but you look at his number, it's like, very pedestrian numbers, but they won, and he was a bigger than life figure. Like he was just the toast of the town, the party of the town, and his teammates loved him, and he was just this very revered guy. Got into a spat with the ownership, and they shipped him off to, I believe, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it never worked out for him again, and it never worked out for the Lions. Lions haven't been back to a championship since 1955, and they've been one of, I think, 3 teams that have never ever been to the Super Bowl. So I go to Detroit, and I'm like, there's no such thing as curses. Give me a break. That stuff doesn't really happen. I am just telling you, I saw more crazy things in my time in Detroit. And I, as I've had age to reflect on things, man, it was a tough time there. And because the other teams that I played for it was fantastic. It was different. But Detroit was really tough. Now, who knows why, whatever. Is a curse really a thing? Well, the Lions haven't been to a championship since Bobby Lane, and they've tried to do things. And I think people said, Dan Campbell, they came in and they really kind of, they've gotten the curse off. He won some playoff games, and they have a 24-7 lead in the championship game against the 49ers. And then it just falls apart. And they've kind of fallen apart the last couple of years. And you just wonder, is the curse really lifted? Okay, so Martin, do you believe in curses? Are you a cursed person? Do you believe in
I
sports?
Cause sort of, kind of, maybe, like it depends on the curse. Like, yeah, I'm 50-50. Sometimes they're real, sometimes they're just made up for good storylines.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you some curses. Okay, and I'm gonna ask you, do you know what those are? All
Okay.
right, have you heard of them, and is it really a thing? Okay, so um, the Madden curse. Do you know what the Madden curse is?
Yeah, the Madden curse is if you're on the cover of Madden, that season, you're either gonna have a really bad season or you're gonna get injured. Significant players that have broken that curse have been like Saquon Barkley. He didn't get hurt this season. He was on the box. Or Calvin Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald. Troy Polamalu got hurt after that year. He was on the cover with Larry Fitz, but Michael Vick got hurt. Donovan McNabb had a bad season. Yeah, I've heard of this curse. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm born in the late 20th century, early 21st century. Video games was my life. Like, of course, everybody knows the Madden curse.
You know the Madden curse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a tough one, and it's a tough one because it really is. It's a mark of a high level status. You get on, you get on Madden whatever year, and that's a big freaking deal. I'll just tell you, I've had more people throughout my time that have said, "Man, I used to play you on Madden." And so many people play this. That one, yeah. I'll just tell you, if I'm a player and I get put on Madden, I'm going to be elated. I am going to be okay. The curse of the Bambino. Do you know what that one is?
Yep, that's Babe Ruth going from the Boston Red Sox to the New York Yankees for some chump change because the Red Sox were thinking, this overly weight baseball player can't pitch and hit at a consistent level. And yeah, it took him a while to win another World Series after that. And I mean, man, what could have been if they would have won some World Series with Babe Ruth on their roster?
Well, you have see. I believe this one. I think this is a real one. I really do.
Yeah,
And I think it is because Boston had won like 9 World Series. Like they were a really good franchise.
Mhm.
And to go from that to nothing, and here you have Babe Ruth, and Babe Ruth is the most famous, most recognizable figure in Major League Baseball. Period. Like still to this day, Babe Ruth and you could argue that Babe Ruth is an American sport. Like he is he's a world icon. I mean, and it just has to be sickening. I'm sure if you're a Red Sox fan and you were a Red Sox fan and you've grown up with this, that it's a real thing. Now, here's why I actually think that curses are real. Okay. And I think they're real because we speak them into existence. That's why I think they're real. Okay. I'm gonna go kind of crazy here for just a minute. But they've done research. And they've done research on plants, on water molecules, and on how people communicate to these different entities. And when they're talked to in a positive way, when they're and I'm talking about plants, like you talk to your plant, like people will go, this is a thing. And they've done research on water molecules and the makeup of the molecules on how they're actually spoken to. And people actually have done tons of research on our thoughts. Okay. And so everyone goes, well, it's just a thought. It doesn't have any impact on you. And the reality is it actually does. And the reality says, because we have Jim Fannin on our show who's actually studied this for years, and our thoughts actually impact our actions. So they have a physiological impact. So if you're a Boston Red Sox fan or you're a Boston player and you're constantly being fed the thought of there's the curse, and you just go, man, I can't get away from this. I can't, And I think it's not necessarily that there's a curse or there's some voodoo magic out there per se, but I think what it does is it creates this thought process, this level of discussion and talk that actually impacts performance. Like I'll just tell you, Martin, I would get booed at home games in Detroit. Okay. And like you want to say, oh, you know what? It doesn't impact me. It's like, sure as heck does. Like it hurts your feelings. Like you go, what the heck? And so you learn as an athlete to try to block all of this stuff out. And for the most part, you do, because you're always going to have people booing you because you go to away game, so it's just kind of comes with the territory, but you try to eliminate it from having some kind of impact on you. And so here you have all these people yelling and screaming and thinking and saying these things in these cities, and it's almost as if you speak it enough, you'll speak it into existence. And I know this sounds crazy and out there, and you're like, what the freak are you talking about? But I really think people can do this. I think sports fans can do it. And you saw in Detroit when they started going and like they got off the quarterback and they actually started cheering for Jared Goff, and it had a different impact. So now, of course, they didn't win a championship, but it certainly changed the course and the direction. Okay. So here's one. Let's see if you can get this one. The Paris Saint-Germain curse.
PSG's curse. Okay, so
are you looking?
No, I'm not. I have to think this has to do
You're
with.
looking.
No, I'm not.
Looking.
With PSG, I have to think this is has to do with the fact that they didn't win the. No, stop. This has to do with the fact that they didn't win the Champions League until last season, and they were one of because the French league only had one Champions League winner up until that point. That was Marseille in '92. And so I think this has to do with the fact that they just didn't win the Champions League for a long time. They did break that curse finally over Inter Milan.
They did. Yeah. All right, good. I'm impressed. Okay. How about the curse of the Billy Goat?
I knew this was going to come up. Yeah, I know about this one. All of us White Sox fans.
You're not a Cubs fan, right?
Nope. I don't root for the Northsiders. Every White Sox fan has to go through this every single year, hearing about that curse, and we had a lot of fun making fun of the Northsiders for a very long time, saying you will never, ever, 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 ever win it. And unfortunately, I never got any sleep that night that they did win it. I didn't get any sleep for the next week after they won it. The city would not be quiet, and it was very rude and very, very unprofessional by them. Of course, that's what Northsider fans do. They're very unprofessional, and they're always like that. Of course, So, yeah, I know about this curse, and you know what? I was glad it was on them for a very long time. It was funny to laugh at them, but since then, it's been such a, they're like, oh, we won. I'm like, so the Sox won first before you guys. Oh, but we won before you. So, yeah, I know this curse.
Okay, so apparently this guy named Sionis who owned the Billy Goat Tavern.
Yep.
Because my question is, what the freak are you bringing a goat to a baseball game for? So he owned the tavern, and he was promoting his business, and so of course he brings his pet goat, and people complain about the stench, which kind of makes sense. I mean, this would never happen today. Well, no, it would happen today because it's just it's a support animal. So it's like, yeah, bring your pig, bring your goat, bring whatever, so you can not have a stressful situation at a Major League Baseball game.
I mean,
we all have to have our support animals.
It's at the World Series. You're getting, people from outside the city to come, and you got to have people come to your tavern and eat your food. You got to do something. So,
I think it's a brilliant move on his part. I really do. I think, I mean, I get it. Is the Billy Goat Tavern still around?
Yeah, of course it is. I've been to. There's multiple. Yeah, there's multiple Billy Goat Taverns. The original one is still there as well. I've been to the original, and I've eaten at a couple, so it's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's just the way you think it is, man. It's one of the places you got to check out when you go to Chicago.
Okay, so as I think about, you talk about North Siders, South Siders, is there really a delineation between where these two fan bases are, or are there Cubs fans in the South Side and White Sox fans in the North Side?
Oh,
Or is
there's
it is there like the, what is it, what is the Mason-Dixon line? Is there a Mason-Dixon line in Chicago that delineates these two fan bases? You know what the Mason-Dixon line is?
Yeah, I know what the Mason-Dixon line is. Being that I'm from Illinois, so I'm above the Mason-Dixon line.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of Sox fans on the north side. There's plenty of Cub fans on the south side. It's a you're all over the place. It's a ragtag bunch all over the place of the city. If you go to Staten Lake, that's what we consider like the midpoint of the whole entire city. From that point on, if you go south of Staten Lake towards where I went to high school, then you are going to the south side. And if you go up north past Staten Lake, you're going to the north side. And the way you can determine that is if you go south, streets turn into like 63rd and Jackson or 22nd and Blue Island. If you go north, it's like Argyle and Bryn Mawr or Damon and Ashland. So that's how you determine if you're on the north or south side. And yeah, it's a feud, man. It's fun to root against the North Siders. I will never root for them ever. And I'm a proud White Sox fan, man. I'll always be a proud Chicago White Sox fan.
Have you ever heard of the Masters Par 3 contest?
Masters Par 3 contest.
Yes.
Is that the contest like before the Masters? Or
Yes.
is it,
So
yeah.
there's a lot of tradition that goes along with the Masters, and one of the traditions is the Par 3 contest. And so it's more of a, because the Masters is so stuffy and buttoned up, but the players actually get their families out there. You'll see their kids, hit shots, and it's this little Par 3 course that's kind of tucked in the corner at the Masters, and it's become quite a big deal. But apparently, everyone. So it started in 1960, is when they started the tradition of the Par 3 contest, and whoever has won it, because it's a competition between the participants in the event. The winner of the Par 3 contest has never ever won the actual Masters on the year that they won the Par 3 contest. So apparently there's a curse. It's a curse of the Par 3 contest at the Masters. And for me, for some reason, I just think it's a big deal.
I was gonna say, didn't we talked about this before, you and I? Didn't Tony Finau win this and like jump up in the air and like break his ankle or something like that? And,
Yeah.
I feel like we talked about that.
Yeah. So he's going down the course, and did he hit a hole in one, or I don't know what it was, but he jumped up in the air and he dislocated his foot, and I think he might have won it that year. And you see it on television. Of course, they show it, and he just kind of reaches down and kind of readjusts his foot and just puts it back into place. Pretty disgusting thing, but nonetheless, it was one of those. Yeah. So the Par 3 is a real deal. Okay. Now, have you ever heard of the curse of the Superdome?
The curse of the Superdome. So that has to do with the
Yes.
Saints, and wasn't that the fact that the Saints either never had a winning record or never won a playoff game in the Superdome or
Yes.
something like that? Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
So for 33 years in its existence, apparently it was built over an ancient burial ground.
Oh.
And so there essentially was a curse on the stadium, and you could say, if you were ever a Saints fan, that yeah, they had they were cursed. I mean, it was pretty bad for a long time. So they got their voodoo ritual, because New Orleans is kind of full of that voodoo magic and all that stuff, and so they wanted to do a thing where they kind of were honoring the spirits that were in the dome and to appease them, and apparently they did this, and they beat the Rams 31-28, and so they kind of lifted that curse. But it's a real thing. these curses and you don't mess around with them. But I think there's a way. I think it's less magic, it's less voodoo, and it's more about just our mindset. Because it reminds me of when I was in high school, and we had a really good football team, and so I go into high school as a sophomore, and our team's the number one ranked team in the state. We have not lost all year, so we have our first playoff game at home. It's at a team that I think won, barely made it to the playoffs, and we end up losing the game, and shouldn't have lost the game. So the next year, my junior year, same thing. Ranked number one in the state, have our first playoff game at home, and we lose again. And I had a chemistry teacher, and he goes, "You guys are just cursed. You guys are the biggest chokers in the world, and you are just, and he's just talking about you'll never win a playoff game, you'll never win a state championship, you'll never do this." So, this was my junior year, and of course I had to take it from my chemistry teacher. So the next year I took an AP chemistry class from the same teacher. And by the way, years later, I actually nominated him for Mr. Hatterley, Steve Hatterley, who's my favorite teacher in high school. And I was mad at him because he was telling us that we sucked and that we were cursed. We'd never win a playoff game. But I nominated him to be a teacher of the year, which he was able to win that award, which was really cool. And so came back through the NFL. It was kind of a special deal. But before he could open his mouth my senior year, I go, listen to me. Listen, Mr. Hatterley, we're going to win a state championship. And I don't want to hear your lip about that. We're a bunch of chokers and a bunch of losers. So I was preemptively kind of doing my own voodoo magic to eliminate this curse that we had as a football team. And he says, "You guys are going to lose again," because we were the number one ranked team again in the state. And I said, "I guarantee you we're not going to lose." And he goes, "I'll bet you on that." And I go, "Fine, I'll bet you too." And he goes, "What do you want to bet?" I go, "I'll bet my grade for the year. So if we lose the state championship, you can fail me. And if we win, you got to give me straight A's for the rest of the year." And he says, "You're on." So we went 12-0, did not lose a game, won a state championship, broke the curse of Stephen Hatterley from our football team, and I got straight A's for the year. That's why he's the teacher of the year. So there you have it. All right, let's take a break. We come back. I think we're gonna do some. I don't know. I think Would You Rather is going to come up here when we return here on the Down and Dirty.
All righty. Then do we want to do that segment and then we'll just close with the interview?
Yeah, because he's probably not ready, I would think, right now.
We can do this quickly. He says he could be ready by like 10:20. So
we're good.
All
right, then I'll back out. You are good to go.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Hey, sports fans, welcome back. Down and Dirty. Scott Mitchell. So glad you could join the show. Having a fun day today. Some crazy stuff. I believe in curses. I do. I believe they're more self-imposed than anything else. We need to talk more positively with more conviction as opposed to, oh my goodness, we're never going to win. All right, we've got a game for you. Martin has put a little game together. So Martin, please explain the game, what we're going to do, and let's have some fun.
Yeah, so we always play a fun game here. Would you rather? I give Scott some scenarios. He decides whether he would do either A or B. And you can play at home. You can choose whatever you want. Everybody's a winner. Everybody gets to go home with a gold star on the top of their forehead and show it off and put it on top of the fridge for everyone to love. So, Scott, the first question is, if you were a draft pick, if you were a player going into this year's draft, would you rather be picked in the first round or any round after that?
Is this like a trick question, Martin?
No, I'm being serious. Would you want to be like first round pick to any team, or would you rather be?
Yeah. Here's the thing. No, it's a good question. Okay, and it's a good question because, let's say you're Zach Wilson, right? and you go, yeah, I'm first round pick. I'm the second pick of the draft. And he ends up going to the Jets, and he's out of the league now. Or would he rather have gone to a team like the Minnesota Vikings? Or would he have rather gone to maybe the Seahawks? Or would he have rather gone to the Rams or to the Denver Broncos? Or but not in the first round, you know? You in a lot of ways, I think the ego part of us says, heck yeah, I want to be a first rounder. A lot of times you go early in the first round, you're going to be on a bad team. And that's not necessarily always bad, because there have been players who, who have been picked on these bad teams and their early round picks, and the teams have really turned things around. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is, it can be a very good thing too, as well. And I know for myself, like, I came out in the draft and all these people say, oh yeah, he'd be drafted like way early, like late first round, no later. You will not go past the second round. And I ended up in the fourth round, and I thought it was the worst thing that had ever happened to me in my life. I thought, this sucks. This is terrible. I can't believe this. My life is over. And then I ended up going to the Miami Dolphins. It was just the best thing in the world. Like, to be in that environment, to be, and I don't want to say mentored, because it really wasn't Dan Marino's job to mentor me, but it was, boy, I got mentored and I got educated and I got schooled, and it was awesome. And it was actually, probably the very best thing for me to happen. So, as a young kid, I'd probably say first round. As an older person, I'd say, yeah, just any round that I got to be on a really good team in a good situation would be better for my long-term viability. So at first I thought, man, what a dumb question. And then as I thought about it, that's a pretty good question. So yeah, there I am.
Oh, that's such a nice compliment.
There are no dumb questions. That's a little harsh.
All right, Scott. If you were on a team today, would you rather be traded to another team or cut and picked off of waivers? Like,
yeah, here's the thing. Like, so being traded for someone, and a really good example of this is someone like Brett Favre. He was not very well thought of, and he gets traded, and they really liked him. So the likelihood of a team liking you and your long-term viability on that team is probably higher, because what people don't understand, it's like, how do I get in a situation that I stay here as long as I possibly can? It's so competitive in the NFL that you really want to be in an environment where a coach believes in you, a coach trusts you, you fit well into that system. That's the most important thing to longevity, and I think it supersedes talent. I think there's some good players out there that they don't fit in circumstances because they're with the wrong coach, wrong situation, and so traded means that team likes you. Being cut and picked up off of waivers, maybe they like you, but it's not. It's like, if they liked you enough, they would have picked you up later. Now you could argue some teams go, yeah, we really like this guy, but we know we can get him for a whole lot less. In fact, I saw this thing from Tony Romo, and he was talking about, because he went to the Dallas Cowboys as a free agent out of college, and he was he was trying to get a signing bonus, and in his mind he goes, I have no prospects. I'm probably not going to make a team, so I'm going to try to get the biggest signing bonus I possibly can get out of a team, take my signing bonus and have a little bit of money in my pocket and move on with my life. So his whole objective was who's going to give me the biggest signing bonus. So Sean Payton, who actually had gone to the same school that Tony Romo had gone to, played quarterback, knew him and knew of him and really liked him. And he goes, well, we'll give you $10,000 and to sign with the Dallas Cowboys. And so Tony goes, well, I got some other teams, wanting to give me 20 and 30. And so he had one team that was going to give him 30. He goes, I'm going to go with that. And so Tony Romo figures, well, I'll just ask Sean Payton if he can go a little higher than $10,000. So he goes back to Sean Payton. He goes, could you bump it up to 20? So Sean Payton goes back to Jerry Jones and says, hey, if we give this guy $20,000, then he'll sign with us. So he goes back to Tony Romo, Sean Payton does, and he says, yeah, they're not going to move off of 10. And so Tony Romo took it. And what he didn't know is that they had the extra 20, and Sean Payton goes, I knew I could get him for 10. So these coaches are always trying to look to get the player at the cheapest value, even though they really like him. And he just kind of knew, Tony Romo knew what he would do, knew that he was gonna be there, and knew that they could get it for as cheap as possible. And of course, Tony Romo finds this out later from Jerry Jones, and then he was kind of mad and upset with Sean Payton because he ripped him off of $10,000. Now Tony Romo went on to do very well, and of course, but that's kind of the story. So yeah. Anyways, long-winded answer to your question, but kind of a fascinating scenario about, where you get picked up by teams and kind of in what scenario. All right, there you go. Next one. Sorry.
All right, next question, Scott. If you were a GM, okay, you had either choice, okay, would you want to hit on all of your draft picks? They turn out to be franchise players. They turn out to be the players that you were looking for, or hit on all of your free agency moves that you spent money on?
Yeah, I think it would be draft picks only because there's probably a higher ceiling typically for most draft picks. You do find a gem, a diamond in the rough on occasion in free agency, but you're going to find your big time contributors typically through the draft. So I would say the draft.
All right, Scott, you've been here before, so this you may go, oh, well, I already know the answer to this, but would you rather be the highest paid player in free agency or paid modestly in free agency?
Wow. So here's the thing. Typically, if you're, it's all about kind of who's around you, and you kind of have to ask yourself, there's so much money in sports today in football that, it might be a better strategy to not take every last dollar that's out there. Now, people will argue with you. And look, my agent, who I have tremendous respect for to this day, love him to death. And he said, my goal is that I set you up that when you're done playing football, you're set for life. And football is not a long career. And it really is one of the unique opportunities for someone in the country to make a lot of money and it be legal, right? You're not out selling drugs or doing things that put you in jail. And so it's a very unique opportunity, and it's serious money today. And you have to look long and hard at like, I really need to take care of my family. I need to take care of that first. And that's probably the mindset of pretty much everyone who plays. So the reality is probably get, if you're going to get paid in free agency, it's probably going to be a lot of money, and you're probably going to take the money and run.
All right, Scott, last question here. Obviously, MLB is putting in this ABS system for the MLB season where you can challenge balls and strikes and whatnot. Would you like to see the NFL add this to challenge like flag calls, like holding or like false starts or something like that, or leave it to the refs to make the right call?
Yeah, it's always a question. For some reason we're so afraid of technology, but wherever technology could help, I think one of the things that maybe would even speed up the game, maybe leave a little of the guesswork away, but to get you can get an alignment of the football. That to me is like, is it a first down? And I think there's an ability to do that. I think there's an ability to do the same thing with a football. And when you score a touchdown, to tell if it's actually a touchdown or not. I know they had this spring football league, and they put a chip in the football, and so it told exactly where the chip was. and I imagine that the chip would probably be negligent as far as its impact of the ball and how it's thrown and kicked and whatever, and the weight of everything. But the automation of certain rules, I think some of them it's almost impossible to tell that, but where a ball's involved, and it's in a certain area, which is for the down markers. I think you could do it even all the time and just say, to kind of mark exactly where the ball was. I'm a huge proponent of that. That stuff comes into play a lot. Kind of, did he make the first down? Did he not? And it also helps coaches out because they go, what's the I need to know, I need to make a decision here. Am I going to go for it on fourth down? Am I going to punt? Am I going to do where are we? Did he get the first down? Did he not? So I could see that. And but the other stuff, holding and some of that stuff is it's still got to be human eyes. And so I'm going to say yes to a certain degree on that. So, all right, there you have it. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to say everybody wins.
I love it. You got a gold star today, Martin. Congratulations. I think you're up to 2, and we're only on Tuesday this week, so you're killing it this week. All right, let's take a break. We come back. We have Brice Larson, who is the host of Brice and Bonaducci on the Fan in Salt Lake, and he is the guru on all things March Madness. So stick around. We're going to talk a little March Madness when the Down and Dirty return.
If you want a Boston sports show that's going to insult you as a fan and only cares about getting back at their old hosts or who Bill Belichick is dating, then keep tuning your radio. But if you want a sports show that's wicked good, wicked smart, wicked passionate, then you need the Wicked Boston Show with me, Cam Stewart. It is the only Boston sports talk show that is by the fans and for the fans. One voice in this city where the only BS is Boston sports. The Wicked Boston Show.
You probably get unwanted emails almost every single day.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Get paid faster with Bill, the easiest way to send, receive, and manage your payments. No more delays, no more hassle. Whether you're a freelancer or a business, Bill makes payments seamless and secure, simple, fast, and reliable. Sign up today at Bill.com.
Hey, sports fans, welcome back. It's the Down and Dirty with Scott Mitchell. So glad you could join our show, be a part of what we do every day. It's all about sports. It's all the sports that we love and we love to talk about. And of course, it is March, if you did not know, if you've been under a rock. And of course, March Madness is right around the corner. We're starting to see some regular season champions arrive in most of the conferences. Things are shaping up to be wild and frenetic as they always are. Now, what's fascinating to me is March Madness actually spills into April, so it's kind of a technical thing. I don't even know if we're even allowed to say March Madness, but we do. We can say anything we want because we're on the wireless. We're on the internet. We're on the World Wide Web. Anyways, joining the show right now is none other than Brice Larson, who is the Brice part of Brice and Bianucci. Sorry, I said Bonaducci. That's a little redheaded kid from the Partridge Family. Brice, you ever watch the Partridge Family? You ever pay attention to that? Or
never in my lifetime, Scott.
You've never ever, you don't even know what the Partridge Family is?
Couldn't tell you what it is.
Wow. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, you're young. You're very young. Anyways, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do here. And I understand you're a little sick, but I hope you're doing well. And thank you for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Right through it, my friend.
All right. So you are the guru when it comes to March Madness. And there's a lot I want to talk about here, but I want to start off with let's start off with what is Bruce Pearl, who said, a 29-0 Miami of Ohio team, unless they win their conference championship, does not belong in this field. What say ye about his comment?
I disagree wholeheartedly with what Bruce Pearl had to say. It's essentially comes down to, I guess, if that's the way they're going to do it, and you want to put in a SEC or a Big 10 or a Big 12 team that's below 500 in their league, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The regular season doesn't matter for the mid-major, low-major schools. Then they might as well not be playing a regular season at that point. You might as well just go straight to the conference tournament, play out a tournament, and then get the automatic qualifying bid in. If you literally can go undefeated in a season and still have to win your conference championship, then there's no point in playing a regular season, Scott. So I wholeheartedly disagree with what Bruce Pearl is saying. Even though, yes, their strength of schedule isn't quite there, they still have played in phenomenal basketball. And going on the road in any league and winning college basketball games with kids that are 18 to 22 years old, it's a really hard thing to do. And to do it 29 times in a season is phenomenal.
Speaking of like having to win your conference or not winning your conference, you see that every year. You'll see teams that are highly ranked and they're the regular season champ. They lose in their conference title. It doesn't really matter. Which conference do you think benefits from a scenario like that the most, where the regular season champ doesn't end up winning the conference title and they get at least multiple teams or more, but which conference out there might benefit from that the most?
This year, it's probably, to be honest with you, it's probably the Mountain West Conference, because right now they're only scheduled to get one in, maybe two. So if their regular season champ, which will either be Utah State or San Diego State, ends up losing, someone else takes the AQ bid, Utah State gets a at-large into the tournament, they probably benefit the most. Maybe one of the bigger conferences too. One of the schools, you get a bid stealer, then you can have 8 SEC schools instead of 7. You know what I mean? So it just kind of depends on what's happening right now in those big time conferences and how many teams they're scheduled to get in.
How much of a factor does it matter? Like going into March Madness, like, do you want to win your conference title? Do you want to have that momentum? Or do you want to go, this is kind of a grind of a tournament. I mean, that some of the better teams get buys in the tournament, but still, what's the better strategy, or does it matter about your conference championships and how you play that?
I was actually thinking about that the other day, trying to figure out if there was any correlation between teams that won or lost out in their conference tournaments and how far in the NCAA tournament they went, because you're exactly right. It's a grind. And the more games that you put on your body, the more beat up your guys are going to be in the NCAA tournament. So I do think if you're like a Michigan right now and you don't end up winning the Big Ten tournament, it's not the end of the world. You're going to have an opportunity to go to the Final Four. And in fact, you probably save some miles on a lot of your kids' bodies going into the NCAA tournament next week. So if you're in one of the Power 4 conferences, that's probably the way to go. But like if you're St. Mary's right now, you've got to go and win the conference tournament. You might be able to get in. I think they're projected in at this point with the win over Gonzaga this last weekend. But I would say if you're in the Mountain West, if you're in one of the other conferences, you're better safe than sorry.
So you have a close affinity to the Utah Valley University. Where is a team like that? Where do they fit into their chances of getting into March Madness?
Right now, they're leading the Western Athletic Conference at the top by a game and a half over California Baptist and Utah Tech. So they are the favorites going into Las Vegas this next week, and they very well could win the tournament. The question is, Scott, are they going to be eligible for the tournament? because Utah Valley University owes the Western Athletic Conference $1 million in exit fees, and they're currently locked up in court with them right now, trying to get a preliminary injunction from a Utah judge to allow them to play in the Western Athletic Conference tournament. The judge said, I'm not going to rule on this until the day before the tournament starts.
What?
So we don't know.
Hold on just a second. So they could go through their whole year and not be eligible because of an exit fee?
That's exactly right. Right now, the WAC is trying to enact punitive bylaws on Utah Valley University to not allow them to play in postseason play, to not allow them to be on TV. So ESPN Plus has been taken away. They did win a temporary restraining order from that same judge, but that only lasts 14 days, and it expires the day before the conference tournament.
Wow.
The judge said in order for her to rule on a preliminary injunction, she needs more time to go over the case because it's happened so fast, and she'll give her ruling the Tuesday before the tournament starts.
Oh my goodness. So like, what is the likely outcome? I mean, is it favorable? Does it not look good? What is kind of the vibe with the school?
I think it is favorable for UVU because this is the exact case of where a preliminary injunction makes sense from a legal standpoint. It's a stay, essentially a stay of execution to allow the underlying lawsuits be battled in court without others being affected. Those other people that are being affected, of course, are the student athletes. So the judge looks at it the way of, well, I'm going to issue this temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction to let the adults in the room go fight about it later. Well, the student athletes aren't the ones being affected in all of this. So I think it's favorable to UVU. I think they'll get it, but I can't be 100% sure. The judge could change her mind.
Do you think there's anything about timing in this? Like they've held off on this to kind of rub it in their noses or kind of make it the most inconvenient that they possibly can? Because it's like, why couldn't, like, did they just know about this, or did they just decide, yeah, we're really going to put it to UVU by making it come at the most painful point that it could?
Absolutely, because you have the fall sports, men's and women's soccer, you had volleyball, all of them played in their conference championships during the fall. Yeah, this was known about a long time ago because UVU announced their move to the Big West in the spring/summer of last year. So they knew about this, and they're slated to go into the Big West on July 1st of this year. So yeah, they definitely waited till this point in time to put the pressure on UVU to try and get that $1 million out of them.
Yeah, it seems it's unfortunate to hear. And your point is well taken. The people who really are damaged by this are the student athletes, and they, which really shouldn't be the case. So there's some discussion about expanding from 68 to more teams. Does that make sense? I know Mike Krzyzewski came out and said no, very adamant against it, but it seems that the more they put in, it's still an amazing event. It's one of our greatest sports viewing events that we have, I think, certainly here in the United States. There's nothing greater than March Madness, but does it make sense to put more teams in?
No, absolutely not. Keep it at 68. The only reason they want to put more teams in is obviously more money, but it's also going to water down the field, and it makes the regular season even worse. The regular season is not going to matter anymore because you can literally go below 500 in a Power 5 league and you're going to get in. And it's not, trust me, the Big West or the Western Athletic Conference aren't the conferences that are going to get multiple bids into this expanded field. It's going to be more Big 12 teams. It's going to be more Big 10 teams, more SEC teams. Last year, the SEC got something like 14 teams into the NCAA tournament. They racked up a record $75 million in tournament units that they shared amongst their own conference. Enough is enough with the amount of teams that are getting in. Leave it the way it is. We don't need to expand. We don't need 16 SEC teams into the field because you have below 500 teams. Like right now, BYU, what are they at? 500 in Big 12 play, and they're a lock. They're according to bracketologists, they're a lock to get into the tournament right now. It doesn't make sense to me.
As you were talking about that, it made me think about something. Just the fact that March Madness is as big as it is. and it certainly seems to dominate kind of the interest of people watching college basketball. Do you think it does have that maybe even as it is right now, it's had an impact on the regular season? Do you think people go because I mean if I'm being honest, like I'm more interested in watching March Madness. I'll tune in to pretty much all of it, whereas college basketball is not. And I used to be a huge, I used to watch college basketball all the time, and I don't watch it as much as I did, but I will watch March Madness. Do you think that the bigness of the event kind of does diminish the regular season as it is?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of things going against college basketball in those terms as far as why people aren't watching the regular season as much. I think that has a huge part to do with it, though, is that people just want to tune in for those 2 weekends where it's the biggest. You might have some big time upsets. I do think going forward, the transfer portal situation also really hurting college basketball, because now those smaller schools that used to have 4-year players on their rosters that could actually go in and win games in the tournament are no longer really a thing. We'll see this year. Last year, upsets were very few and far in between. We'll see what it looks like this year in terms of the upsets and which teams can pull those. But I think that there's a lot of things going against college basketball's regular season right now, and those are just 2 of many of a list that I could create here.
Yeah, it's fascinating what NIL does, the unintended consequences, because as you mentioned there's just not that many upsets, and that's what we love. I mean, we love the Cinderella story. We love that's part of the intrigue and the draw to this, to March Madness, is who's going to get upset, who's going to be that Cinderella team. And when you kind of run away from that, it really takes that away. And and I wonder if it, does that diminish people wanting to watch March Madness or not, or is there still the same interest? I don't know. What do you think?
I would agree. I think it does diminish a lot of it, and it's happening during the regular season too. You don't see a lot of teams that have the possibility to be able to pull those upsets during the regular season, non-conference play the big time schools, because now they have all these advanced analytics, Scott, that allow for teams to decide who they're going to schedule. And right now, Big 12 and Big 10 and all the Power 4 schools are looking at Quad 2 and Quad 3 teams saying, we're not going to schedule you, because if we lose, we were supposed to win it. There's really no benefit to us scheduling you. It doesn't help the resume. And if we lose, it really hurts us. So what they do is schedule these Quad 4 games, the worst of the worst.
Yeah.
And so it's just killing college basketball's regular season right now.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought that much about it, but it's very interesting. So, of the teams that are going to be in the tournament this year, who do you think? Give me your top 4, your final 4. Who do you think are the top 4 teams in the event this year?
Well, I think Michigan, probably one of the best teams in all of college basketball this year. Only lost a couple of games. One was to Duke just about a week or so ago. So Michigan, I've got going pretty far in this one. They could definitely win a national championship this year. Arizona out of the Big 12. I think Arizona's phenomenal. Just barely clinched the Big 12 regular season title last night against Iowa State. They're a really good defensive basketball team, but they can also score it. I would probably have to go. Duke has to be up there. You always have to look out for Duke with the Boozers, especially Cameron Boozer. He's been playing some really good time so far this year. And if there's another team out there, potentially UConn. UConn could make a little bit of a run. They've struggled at times this year, but they've started to get hot late, and that's usually where Hurley starts to cook late in the season. So if you want real blue bloods, those are the 4 blue bloods that I would go with. If you want a team kind of off the radar a little bit, that
this
might
is down and dirty, Brice. Of course, we want them off the radar.
If you want one of those teams, maybe I'm trying to think of a team or two that might surprise some people. Michigan State is looking really good right now, down the stretch. Nebraska's got 5 white dudes that play out on the floor. It's been a long time since we've seen that in college basketball. to watch out for Nebraska as well. They're a team that could make a deep run in this year's NCAA tournament.
So UVU, let's just say they make it in. What's a really good case scenario? What's a successful run in March Madness for UVU?
For UVU, well, this would be their first time ever making the tournament. If they do make it in, they'd likely be a 13 seed. If they could pull one upset, that'd be probably the greatest game in Utah Valley basketball history.
All right, there you have it. Thanks, Brice. Really appreciate you tuning in. Hope you feel better and hope you have a great rest of your day. So thank you.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me on, Scott.
You got it, buddy. All right, there you have it, folks. Hey, it's been the Down and Dirty. So glad you could join us. Make sure you go take a shower now, clean yourself off if you've gotten down to dirty. But love it every day. Thanks for your patronage, Zach. Martin, thank you for all your help and all you do. Folks, have a great day. And until then, we'll see you then.